Ethan Cole stepped out of the towering glass building in downtown Chicago, the reflection of the city skyline fading behind him as the doors quietly closed. Inside, everything had felt cold and calculated. Sharp suits, polite smiles, and silent judgments. The interview panel had listened, nodded, and then dismissed him, with a rehearsed explanation about not being the right fit. He didn't argue, he never did. As a single father, he had learned long ago how to swallow disappointment and keep moving forward no matter how unfair things felt. He adjusted the worn strap of his bag over his shoulder and walked down the steps, blending into the busy sidewalk where strangers rushed past without a second glance. Cars honked, people talked loudly on their phones, and life continued as if nothing had happened. But inside him there was a quiet weight. This job had meant stability, better hours, better pay, more time with his young son. He had prepared for weeks, staying up late after putting his child to sleep, practicing answers, researching the company, hoping this would finally be the break he needed. He paused briefly at the corner, pulling out his phone. No missed calls. No messages, just the time staring back at him, reminding him how quickly hope can disappear. For a moment, doubt crept in. Maybe they were right. Maybe he didn't belong in places like that. But just as quickly, he pushed that thought away. He couldn't afford to think like that. Not with someone depending on him. Taking a slow breath, Ethan straightened his posture and stepped forward again. He didn't look back at the building. As far as he knew, that chapter was already over. What he didn't realize was that behind those tinted windows, someone had been watching. Not judging, but noticing everything they had missed. The sharp sound of heels against the polished lobby floor echoed as the elevator doors slid open and the CEO stepped out with urgency that immediately caught everyone's attention. Employees at the reception desk exchanged quick glances, confused by her sudden movement. She rarely left her office during interviews, let alone rushed out like this. But she didn't slow down. Her eyes were fixed on the glass doors ahead, her mind replaying every moment she had just witnessed. On the security feed outside, Ethan had already reached the sidewalk, blending into the crowd as he walked away with quiet dignity. He didn't know that someone powerful had been observing, not just his answers, but his composure, his honesty, and the way he handled rejection without bitterness. To her, that mattered more than any polished resume. "Stop him," she said quickly to the front desk as she passed, but then shook her head no. This was something she needed to do herself. The doors opened, and a rush of cold air met her as she stepped outside. Across the street, she spotted him, just as he was about to disappear into the flow of people. "Wait," she called out, her voice cutting through the city noise. Ethan turned, surprised, his expression cautious. It wasn't every day that came running after someone like him. She approached him, slightly out of breath but composed enough to speak clearly. "I watched your interview," she said, her tone direct but sincere. "You didn't fail, they did." He frowned slightly, unsure how to respond. Moments ago he had been dismissed. Now the highest authority in the company stood in front of him, telling a completely different story. She met his eyes with certainty. "I'm offering you a position, one that values exactly what they overlooked, if you're still willing." For a moment, the noise of the city seemed to fade. Ethan stood there, processing the sudden shift, realizing that sometimes the right person only needs one moment to see what others couldn't.